The battlefield was silent, but the silence was heavy, filled with smoke, fire, and the scent of burned metal. The war between humans and the alien empire had ended for the night, but the ground was still covered with bodies, weapons, and broken machines. Among the ruins, a figure lay motionless, her body covered in dust and blood. She was not human. She was one of the enemy's greatest warriors, feared by all who stood against her. She had once been a commander, leading her people with honor and pride, her armor shining under the alien suns, her name spoken with respect. But now she lay forgotten, her allies gone, her army broken, abandoned like a tool no longer useful. Her breathing was shallow, her chest rising and falling slowly, each breath a painful struggle. Her sharp eyes, once filled with fire, now barely able to stay open. She whispered to herself, her voice weak and trembling. So this is how it ends, not in glory, not in victory, but in the dirt left behind. Her people had always promised that no warrior would be left alone. But when her wounds grew too deep and her strength began to fade, they had turned their backs, marching forward without even looking at her one last time. It was not death that hurt her the most. It was the betrayal, the cold truth that she was no longer needed. The wind moved across the battlefield, carrying ashes and the cries of distant scavengers. She closed her eyes, accepting that soon the darkness would take her, but fate had other plans. From the shadows of broken machines, footsteps approached, careful and slow. It was not one of her kind, it was a human soldier. He moved cautiously, his weapon ready, scanning the area for survivors, his heart heavy from the loss of his comrades. When his eyes fell on the alien warrior, his first thought was simple, enemy. But as he stepped closer, he saw something different. She was wounded, broken, and yet there was something noble about the way she lay. Even in her weakness, she did not look pathetic, she looked abandoned. The soldier hesitated. His training told him to finish her, to make sure she could never rise again. But something inside him resisted. He lowered his weapon and instead knelt beside her, his hands trembling as he reached out. Her eyes opened slightly, their glow faint but still sharp, and she looked at him with both anger and pain. "Why?" she whispered, her voice so weak he could barely hear. "Why are you here?" He did not answer at first. He only pulled a small kit from his belt, bandages, water, nothing more. She wanted to push him away, to spit at the idea of receiving help from a human. Yet her body betrayed her. She was too weak to move. Her pride screamed at her to resist, but her heart whispered something she did not want to believe. She did not want to die. The human soldier gently cleaned her wounds, pressing bandages against the cuts, giving her water drop by drop. Every action he took was slow, careful, as if he was not saving an enemy, but protecting a life. And in that strange moment, she realized he did not see her as a monster. He did not see her as a weapon of war. He saw her as someone worth saving. The silence around them was broken only by the sound of distant fire and the soft rhythm of her breathing. She studied him through half-closed eyes, wondering what kind of human would risk his life to help her. Surely, his own people would call him a traitor, and yet here he was giving her the one thing her own people had denied her: compassion. Her mind swirled with confusion, pain, and a strange warmth that grew in her chest. She could not understand why she felt safer in the hands of her enemy than she had ever felt among her own kind. The thought frightened her, and yet she could not let it go. The soldier finally spoke, his voice quiet, steady. "You don't deserve to die like this." She stared at him, her lips trembling as she tried to speak, but no words came. Instead, a single tear slid down her face, mixing with the dirt and blood. For the first time in her life, she felt small, vulnerable, and yet not alone. The night grew darker, and the battlefield colder, but beside the broken machines and ashes of war, two enemies sat together. One too weak to fight, the other too human to kill. And though neither of them knew what the future would bring, both felt the beginning of something they could not explain. The warrior abandoned by her people, and the soldier who refused to leave her behind. Her eyes closed once more, but this time she did not fear the darkness, because for the first time she believed she might not face it alone. The night dragged on, heavy with silence. The battlefield had grown colder, but the human soldier did not move from the alien warrior's side. His body was tired, his own wounds burned, yet he kept his focus on her, wrapping torn cloth around her injuries, giving her the last drops of water from his canteen. He could not explain to himself why he cared, only that leaving her to die felt wrong. The alien warrior felt herself drifting between worlds, half-conscious, her vision fading in and out. Every time she opened her eyes, she expected to see one of her people coming back for her, but it never happened. Instead, it was always him, the human, his face dirted by ash, his hands rough yet gentle. He was no savior from her people's stories, no hero carved in stone, and yet he was the only one who stayed. Her mind, trained for war, told her to fight him, to see him as an enemy, but her heart, weak and trembling, whispered something different. She had been forsaken by her own kind, but this human, the very enemy she had been taught to hate, refused to abandon her. The thought cut deeper than her wounds. "Why?" she whispered again, her voice cracking like broken glass. "Why do you save me?" The human paused, his hand tightening the cloth over her wound, his eyes lowered. "Because no one should die like this, not alone, not forgotten." His words stung her, because they were the same truth she had buried in her chest. She had feared dying alone more than death itself. And here, in the ruins of war, a human had spoken the words she longed to hear. The alien tried to push herself up, her pride demanding strength, but her body betrayed her. She fell back with a groan, her head spinning, her chest aching. She clenched her teeth, humiliated, once a commander, now helpless, lying in the arms of the enemy. The soldier steadied her gently, whispering, "Don't move, you'll make it worse." His voice was not commanding like her generals, nor sharp like her rivals. It was steady, calm, and filled with something she had never been given: care. She turned her eyes toward him, her gaze sharp even in weakness. "You risked your life for me. Your people would kill you for this." He gave a faint smile, one that looked more like pain than joy. "Maybe they would, but I couldn't walk away." Her lips parted. No answer came, because deep inside she knew he spoke the truth. Around them, the battlefield shifted. Shadows of scavengers moved through the ruins, hunting for weapons, for the dead, for anything to sell. The human soldier pulled her closer, covering them with scraps of metal to hide their forms, his arms shielding her. She felt his warmth against her cold skin, and for the first time since the battle, her fear lessened. She wanted to hate him, to spit in his face, to curse his name, but when his hand brushed her forehead to check her fever, she felt something break inside her, something she had built all her life. Walls of pride, of hatred, of distance. They cracked, and through those cracks entered a fragile spark she had never known. Her thoughts spun, her heart pounded weakly. She whispered again, almost too softly, "Why save me?" And this time, he did not answer with words. He looked in her eyes, steady, unshaken, and she saw the truth there. He did not need to explain. She could feel it. He simply refused to let her die. The alien warrior, once proud, once unshaken, felt a tear roll down her cheek. She hated that tear, hated that it showed weakness, but she could not stop it. She turned her face away in shame, but he saw, and instead of mocking her, instead of turning cold, he reached out and brushed the tear away. The touch burned in her heart, not with pain, but with something dangerous, something she feared more than death itself: hope. As the night stretched longer, her strength flickered like a candle in the wind, fading but refusing to die. Every time her eyes closed, she thought it was the end, but his voice would call her back, soft, steady, "Stay with me, don't give up." She had been left to die by her own kind, and yet the enemy begged her to live. The irony cut through her, and yet it gave her strength. In her chest, the fragile spark began to grow. She knew the darkness would come again, but now she was not facing it alone. The human soldier had placed a shield over her soul, one made not of metal, but of kindness. The battlefield was still a graveyard, but to her, in that moment, it became something else. It became the place where an enemy refused to let her die. And though her body was broken, her spirit, for the first time in years, began to heal. The nights seemed endless. Shadows stretched across the battlefield like ghosts. The human soldier sat against the wreckage of a broken war machine, holding the alien warrior close, her breathing shallow, her body cold. Each minute felt heavier than the last. He had given her water, bandaged her wounds, but it was not enough. Her life was slipping away. Her eyes fluttered open only for moments at a time, and every time they did, she saw his face above hers, tired, wounded, yet never giving up. He spoke softly to her, words she barely heard, words meant to anchor her to life. But the pull of darkness grew stronger, her heartbeat weaker, her mind heavier. She whispered through cracked lips, "It hurts." The words faint like dying embers. The human's jaw tightened, his heart aching. He had seen death before, but this was different. This was not just another soldier. She was alive before him, fragile and proud, and he could not accept watching that life fade away. His hands trembled as he pressed harder on her wound, trying to stop the bleeding, but her skin was pale, colder with each breath. He knew the truth. If he did nothing, she would not last till dawn. Desperation filled him, louder than fear, louder than reason. The alien warrior felt her vision blur again, her chest rising with a slow struggle. She had accepted death once, but something inside her rebelled now. Her pride was gone, but a strange warmth kept her clinging, not for her people, not for honor, but for the human who refused to leave her side. She looked at him with fading eyes, her voice weak. "Why do you fight for me? I am your enemy." He shook his head, his voice firm. "Not tonight. Not here. Tonight you are just someone who deserves to live." Her heart ached at those words. She wanted to answer, to tell him she feared the darkness more than she feared him. But her voice failed, her head tilted to the side, her breath almost gone. The human soldier's panic grew. He had no medicine, no advanced tools, nothing that could bring her back. But as he looked down at her lips, pale and trembling, something wild, something desperate sparked inside him. A memory of his people's stories, of life shared through breath, of warmth shared through touch. Without hesitation, without thought, he leaned closer, his lips pressed gently against hers. It was not a kiss of love. Not yet. It was a kiss of life, a desperate attempt to hold her spirit in this world. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. The silence was deafening, but then he felt it. Her body stirred, a shiver ran through her, her breath caught, her chest rose with sudden strength. Her eyes flew open, wide with shock, the glow in them brighter than before. She gasped against his lips, her body trembling with new energy. She pulled back slightly, staring at him with disbelief. "What have you done?" Her voice was stronger now, confused, almost afraid. The soldier's heart raced. He whispered, I gave you my breath, my warmth. I could not let you go." Her hand rose shakily to her lips, as if to confirm the touch had been real. Never in her life had anyone dared to reach her in such a way. Never had anyone given her life instead of taking it. She was an alien warrior, feared, untouchable, yet this human had crossed every barrier in a single moment. Her mind screamed that it was impossible, that no human power could revive her. But her heart told another story. Her chest no longer felt empty. Her pulse was stronger. The pain still burned, but beneath it, life surged. She stared at him, her voice trembling. "Your kiss, it pulled me back." He looked in her eyes, his own filled with exhaustion. "Then stay, fight. Don't leave me here with regret." The battlefield around them was still cold, still broken. But inside her, something new began. She had been abandoned by her own kind, left to die, yet the human's kiss had reminded her that she was still alive, still wanted, still worth saving. The fragile spark had become a flame, small, unsteady, but burning against the darkness. Her pride battled with her heart. Part of her wanted to call it weakness, to reject it, But another part of her, the part that had cried silently when her people left her, embraced it. She looked at him again, and for the first time, her voice held more than pain. It held curiosity. Why would a human give life to his enemy? His reply came without hesitation, soft but certain. Because I saw more than an enemy. I saw someone who should not be lost. Her chest tightened. Her throat ached, not from injury but from the storm of emotions she could not control. She turned her face away, unable to let him see the tears building in her eyes. She had lived her whole life in war, trained to hate, trained to kill, but in one night, one kiss, the enemy had done what her people never could, made her feel alive. The dawn had not yet come, but something brighter than dawn now burned within her heart. Between life and death, she had been given a choice, and because of him, she chose life. The battlefield was still. The fires had burned low, leaving only glowing embers scattered across the ruins. The human soldier sat close to the alien warrior, watching her chest rise with steadier breaths. Though she was still weak, life had returned to her. The memory of that desperate kiss hung between them like a secret neither could ignore. She sat up slowly, her body trembling but no longer fading. Her eyes narrowed as she looked at him, her voice cold though not without confusion. "You should have left me. You should have ended me. That is what an enemy does." He met her gaze without flinching, his voice steady. "I'm not like your people. I don't leave the wounded to die." Her heart twisted at those words. Her own kind had abandoned her without hesitation. Yet this human, her sworn enemy, had chosen to risk his life for her. She hated the feeling that rose in her chest, a mix of gratitude, anger, and something else she dared not name. "You speak of mercy as if it is strength," she whispered, her tone sharp. "But mercy is weakness on the battlefield." The soldier gave a faint smile, shaking his head. "If mercy is weakness, then why are you still alive?" Her lips tightened. She had no answer. Her pride battled against the truth. She was alive only because of him. Every warrior's code she had lived by was shattered in that single moment. He had broken the barrier between enemy and ally, and she could not undo it. The night grew colder, and the sound of distant patrols echoed in the silence. Soldiers from both sides searched the ruins, their voices carried on the wind. They would kill her if they found her, and they would kill him too if they knew what he had done. The human soldier pulled her closer into the shadows, hiding behind shattered stone, his arms steady around her shoulders. She stiffened at his touch, but she did not push him away. His presence gave her warmth, protection, something she never thought she would accept from a human. Her voice was low, filled with unease. "Do you know what you've done? If your commanders find out, they will call you a traitor." He looked into the distance, his eyes tired but calm. "Maybe they will, but I will live with it. I will not live with leaving you to die." The words struck deep inside her, sharper than any blade. Her own generals, her own soldiers, had not spoken such things. She had been honored only when she was useful, loved only when she was victorious. But the moment she fell, they had cast her aside. This human, her enemy, gave her more worth in one night than her people had given her in years. Her pride crumbled little by little, and though she tried to hold her walls, cracks spread through them. She turned to him and asked the question that burned in her chest. "Why do you care if I live?" He met her eyes, unshaken. "Because you are more than a weapon. You are more than a soldier. I don't need a reason to see your life as worth saving." Her breath caught, her heart thundered. She looked away quickly, ashamed of the tear threatening to escape. She hated herself for feeling weak, hated herself for needing him. But she could not deny the truth. She was alive only because of this human, and a bond was forming between them, a bond neither of them had chosen, but one that could not be broken. The night dragged on. Enemy searchlights crossed the ruins, and the soldier pressed her closer to him. Keeping her hidden in the shadows, she felt his heartbeat against her shoulder, strong and steady, a sound that anchored her, a sound that reminded her she was not alone. Her people had left her to die, but this enemy soldier gave her a reason to keep breathing. As the patrols moved away, silence returned. The alien warrior whispered softly, almost to herself, "My kind see humans as weak, But perhaps weakness is not what I see. The soldier heard her, but he did not reply. Instead, he simply offered her a piece of dried ration. Holding it out with quiet patience, she stared at it, then at him, and for the first time, she accepted something from human hands without resistance. The bond between them was fragile, like glass, but it was real, forged not in battle, not in victory, but in the silence after war. She had been forsaken, he had been defiant, and together they had created something that neither army could have expected: trust. She looked at him once more before resting her head back against the stone, her voice quiet. "You should not trust me. I could still kill you." He gave a small laugh under his breath, his tone calm. "Then kill me tomorrow, but tonight live?" Her lips parted, but no words came. Her heart twisted again. Not with pain, but with something far more dangerous. Something she had never allowed herself to feel. She closed her eyes, and for the first time in her life, she did not dream of victory, nor of conquest. She dreamed of a human's touch, a human's mercy, and a strange bond that had changed everything. The ruins were darker now, the stars hidden behind smoke. The battlefield was no longer silent. Distant voices grew louder. The crackle of radios echoed. Footsteps crunched against the broken ground. Patrols were moving, searching, hunting. The human soldier pressed his back against the jagged wall of stone, pulling the alien warrior down beside him, his hand steady against her shoulder. Signaling silence, she obeyed, though every part of her burned with unease. She was weak, her wounds still raw. If they were found, she would not survive a fight, and neither would he. Shadows moved across the rubble, flashlights cutting through the darkness. Enemy scouts combed the field, their boots stopping inches from where they hid. The alien warrior felt her chest tighten, her heart racing. She had faced death before, but never like this, so close, so fragile, so dependent on another. The soldier leaned closer, his breath warm against her ear, whispering so softly she barely heard. "Stay still, don't breathe too loud." She nodded, every muscle tense, her body pressed against his. She felt the steady rhythm of his heartbeat against her shoulder. It was strange, but that sound calmed her more than any weapon ever had. The patrol passed, their lights sweeping over the wreckage. Missing them by inches, the alien warrior closed her eyes, waiting until the sound of boots faded into the distance. Only then did she release the breath she had been holding. Her voice was low, sharp, but not without trembling. "If they find us, they will not only kill me, they will kill you too." The human gave a faint smile, though his eyes were heavy with worry. "Then we make sure they don't find us." They began to move through the ruins, slow, careful, each step chosen with silence. The soldier guided her, supporting her weight when she stumbled, his arms strong around her waist. Though her pride wanted to resist, her body betrayed her, leaning against him for strength. She hated needing him, yet she could not deny it. Without him, she would already be gone. Every step reminded her of that truth. As they moved deeper into the broken city, the sounds of patrols grew louder. Their enemy did not tire. They searched every ruin, every shadow. The alien warrior's voice was low, filled with tension. "They hunt us. They will not stop until they find me. My life is worth much to them, and your life means nothing." The soldier looked at her, his eyes steady in the dim light. "Then let them hunt, but they will not have you." Her heart twisted at his words. She wanted to believe him, but her mind screamed that this was impossible. Her people wanted her dead or captured. His people would call him a traitor, and yet between them, there was a shield stronger than armies, the strange bond that had formed when he refused to leave her behind. They slipped into the shell of an old structure, walls shattered, roof half collapsed. The soldier lowered her gently to the ground, scanning the shadows outside. Every sound made his hand tighten around his weapon, his body ready to fight. The alien warrior studied him quietly, her eyes narrowing. "Why do you stay by my side? You could run. You could live." He turned to her, his face tired but unshaken. "If I run, I live with leaving you behind, and that is no life at all." Her throat ached. She turned her face away, ashamed of the emotion burning inside her. She had once believed loyalty was strength, but she had been forsaken by her own kind. Now the enemy showed her loyalty that her people had denied. She whispered almost to herself, "You are a fool." He answered softly, "Then let me be a fool, as long as you live." Silence fell between them, but it was not empty. It was heavy, filled with the weight of unspoken truths. The sound of patrols returned, louder now, closing in, their voices sharp, their search relentless. The soldier crouched lower, pulling her close once more. Her body stiffened at first, but when the lights swept across the room, she found herself gripping his arm, holding tighter than she wanted to admit. Her heart raced, but not only from fear. It raced from the warmth of his closeness, from the way he shielded her without hesitation. The patrol moved past, but not far. Their footsteps lingered, voices carried in the night. The danger was not gone. Not yet, the alien warrior whispered, her tone heavy with unease. "If they find us, I will not let them take me. I would rather die." The soldier met her eyes, his voice calm, unwavering. "Then I will die beside you, but I will not let them take you either." Her chest tightened. Her pride cracked again. She wanted to push his words away, to call them empty, but the truth was clear in his eyes. He meant every word. And for the first time in her life, someone was willing to stand with her even in death. The sound of patrols faded slowly, leaving silence once more. The soldier relaxed only slightly, his arm still around her. She leaned against him, exhausted, but her mind restless, her heart unsure of what was happening to her. The enemy's shadow still loomed. They were still hunted, still trapped in the ruins. But as she closed her eyes, resting against the human's steady form, she realized something dangerous. She no longer feared the patrols, no longer feared the darkness, because she was no longer alone. The night stretched long, broken only by distant echoes of war machines moving across the ruined land. The soldier and the alien warrior moved slowly, step by step, through shattered walls and twisted metal. The human supported her weight, his arm firm around her as her legs trembled with each movement. She hated the weakness in her body, hated needing his strength. Yet without him she would have collapsed long ago. Every time she stumbled, he caught her. Every time her breath faltered, he whispered for her to hold on. The alien warrior glanced at him, her pride burning inside her chest. "Do you not see what you are doing? Helping me means betraying your own kind." The human's voice was calm, steady, his eyes sharp despite the exhaustion. "Then let me be a traitor. If loyalty means leaving you to die, I will not follow it." Her steps faltered, her heart tightened. She had never heard words like these before. Her people valued strength, victory, obedience, not compassion, not mercy, never loyalty to the broken. And yet here stood a man who risked everything for someone who should have been his enemy. Her voice shook as she whispered, "My own people left me. Why should you, an enemy, stay?" He looked at her, his face tired but unwavering. "Because no one deserves to be abandoned, not even you." The words struck deeper than any wound. She turned her face away, ashamed of the tears that threatened to fall. She had been trained to believe tears were weakness, that warriors never cried. But now her chest burned with emotions she could no longer silence. She whispered softly, almost trembling, "You do not understand. They left me because I was no longer useful. I was nothing to them." He stopped walking, forcing her to look at him, his voice firm, louder than before. "You are not nothing. Don't let them decide your worth." Her throat tightened, her eyes widened. No one had ever spoken to her like that. Not her generals, not her comrades, not even her family. All her life her value had been measured in victories, and the moment she fell, she had been forsaken. But this human, this enemy, saw worth in her when she saw none in herself. The ruins around them creaked with the wind, the silence heavy, yet between them a bond grew stronger, invisible but unbreakable. The alien warrior finally whispered, her voice shaking, "If your commanders see you with me, they will kill you. If my people find me with you, they will kill us both. Why do you not fear this?" The soldier gave a faint smile, though his eyes carried sorrow. "I fear many things, but I do not fear standing beside you." Her chest ached with emotions she could not name: pride, shame, gratitude, and something more dangerous, something that frightened her more than death itself. She lowered her gaze, whispering so softly it was almost lost to the wind. "Then we are bound, not by orders, not by blood, but by this night." The human nodded, his voice quiet but sure. "Then let it be our promise that neither of us will walk alone again." The alien warrior froze, the words sinking deep into her heart. A promise, something her people had broken without hesitation, something she had stopped believing in long ago, now reborn in the voice of a human. She wanted to resist, to push it away, but instead she found herself whispering back, a promise. Her lips trembled, her heart racing. "I will hold it." They moved further into the ruins, patrols still near, danger still alive, but something inside her had shifted. She no longer saw herself as abandoned, no longer as worthless. She carried his promise in her chest, a fragile shield against the darkness. As they rested in the shell of a broken building, the soldier leaned against the wall, exhaustion finally pulling at him. The alien warrior sat close, her body weak, but her spirit restless. She studied his face as he closed his eyes, his breathing steady, his hand still resting near his weapon even in sleep. She thought of his words, of his touch, of the kiss that had brought her back from death. And for the first time in her life, she felt something dangerous stir within her, a longing, not for victory, not for honor, but for him. Her pride whispered that it was weakness. Her training screamed that it was betrayal. But her heart, fragile and wounded, whispered something else entirely. It whispered that perhaps she had been saved not by chance, but by fate. She leaned closer, watching him sleep, her hand hovering as if to touch him. But she stopped herself, pulling back, her voice soft in the quiet. "Human, you gave me life, but now you carry my heart with it." The night deepened, danger still near, but the bond between them was no longer fragile. It had become something stronger, sealed by words, by actions, and by a promise neither of them would break. And though the enemy's shadow still lingered outside, within those broken walls, something brighter had been born, a secret promise, a bond that could not be undone. Dawn crept slowly across the battlefield, the sky no longer black but painted with pale streaks of gray and gold. The ruins glowed faintly in the first light, broken towers casting long shadows across the ground. The human soldier and the alien warrior had survived the night, but survival was only the beginning. The soldier rose first, scanning the horizon, every muscle tense. He knew their safety was fragile, patrols still searched, hunters still moved through the wasteland, but for the first time in hours, the silence felt different, not heavy, not hopeless, but filled with the quiet strength of two lives refusing to break. He turned back to her. She was sitting against the wall, her body weak, but her eyes alive, stronger than the night before, the glow within them no longer dimmed by despair. She looked at him for a long moment before speaking, her voice low, heavy with meaning. "You gave me back life when I had none, and now I cannot decide if it is a blessing or a curse." He knelt beside her, meeting her eyes, his voice calm but filled with emotion. "Life is never a curse if it gives you a chance to choose again." Her chest tightened at his words. Choice. That was what she had been denied her whole life. Her path had been chosen for her by war, by duty, by the will of others. Yet in one night, an enemy had given her something greater than survival. He had given her freedom to choose who she wanted to be. Her lips trembled, her voice breaking. "My people will hunt me. They will call me traitor. Your people will kill you if they know the truth. We cannot walk the same path." The soldier's eyes did not waver, his voice firm. "Then let the world call us traitors. Let them call us enemies. I will not regret saving you." Her heart burned at his words. The walls of pride she had built through years of war crumbled. She could no longer deny what she felt. The air between them grew heavy, not with silence, but with the weight of unspoken emotions. She stared at him, the human who had risked everything, The human who had kissed her back to life, her voice soft, almost trembling. "Why do you look at me this way, as if I am not your enemy?" He answered simply, without hesitation, "Because I see more. I see who you are, not what they say you are." Her breath caught, her eyes burned. She turned her face away, ashamed of the tears forming again. She hated them, hated how they betrayed her, but she could not stop them. She whispered softly, "No one has ever seen me, not like this." The soldier leaned closer, his hand brushing gently against her cheek, wiping away the tear before it could fall. His touch was warm, steady, and it broke what little resistance she had left. The alien warrior looked at him again, her lips parting, her voice a whisper filled with trembling strength. "Your kiss gave me life, but it also gave me something far more dangerous. It gave me a heart I cannot control." Before he could reply, she leaned forward, her lips finding his, this time not for survival, not for desperation, but for choice, for the truth she could no longer deny. The kiss was soft at first, uncertain, but it carried more weight than any vow, more power than any weapon. It sealed a bond that neither war nor death could shatter. She closed her eyes, her pride gone, her walls gone. All that remained was the warmth of him. The soldier did not pull away. His hand moved to steady her, his heart pounding. He returned the kiss not with hesitation, but with certainty, with the promise he had spoken through every action, through every breath. When she pulled back, her eyes glowed brighter, her lips trembling with both fear and hope. "I do not know what this means. I do not know what tomorrow will bring, but I know this: I will not forget you." He smiled faintly, exhaustion in his face, but something deeper in his eyes. "Then let tomorrow come. As long as today, we stand together." The dawn grew brighter, casting golden light across their faces. The battlefield was still broken, their enemies still hunted, their paths still uncertain. But within that ruined world, something new had been born. An abandoned warrior, a defiant soldier, two enemies who should have destroyed each other, now bound by a kiss that changed everything. She leaned against him, her voice soft, steady, filled with the weight of truth. "You gave me back my life, but more than that, you gave me back myself." And with those words, the ruins around them no longer felt like a graveyard, but like the beginning of a story neither of them had ever expected. The human closed his eyes briefly. Holding her close, the alien warrior rested her head against his chest, and for the first time, she did not feel like a commander or a soldier or a weapon. She felt like someone who belonged, someone no longer forsaken. The dawn broke fully, and with it, the shadow of war seemed lighter, for though the world still raged outside, within their bond, they had found something stronger than armies, stronger than fear, stronger even than death itself. It was not just survival, it was not just mercy, it was something eternal, sealed in that kiss, the kiss that had changed everything.